Recall the Ediacaran period was a relatively safe world for animals. The animals of this time period were primarily soft bodied, filter feeding animals. It was a simpler time before powerful jaws and teeth. And then the moment you've been waiting for. Boom! Everything changed. Okay, so it wasn't an actual physical explosion, but in a metaphorical explosion of animal body plans. From 535 to 525 million years ago, in just 10 million years, animal life is going to radiate into a mind boggling array of different animal body plans. We initially learned about what's known as the Cambrian explosion from an incredibly rich fossil site discovered in the Canadian Rockies of British Columbia known as the Burgess Shale. Since the Burgess Shale, there have been numerous other Cambrian sites discovered. But in the strata formed before the Cambrian explosion, only a few animal phyla have been observed. But in the strata that are 535 to 525 million years old, paleontologists have found the oldest fossils of about half of all the extant animal phyla, including the first arthropods, the first chordates, and the first echinoderms. Many of these fossils, however, which include the first large animals with hard, mineralized skeletons, are going to look radically different than anything that we see today, like this goofball right here, one of my favorites, Opa Binia. Perhaps the best known clade from the Cambrian period are the trilobites. So, this is a diverse group of some of the earliest known arthropods. Arthropods, as you may recall, are animals with hard exoskeletons made of the polysaccharide chitin. Arthropods have segmented bodies and jointed limbs. Trilobites, as you can clearly see, check all those boxes. They have segmented bodies with one, two, three longitudinal lobes, hence the name trilobite. And they clearly have that hard exoskeleton, which fossilizes very easily and left behind a very rich fossil record of these guys. In fact, there have been over 20,000 described different species of trilobites. That is an incredible explosion of diversity. And now I want to introduce you to Anomalocaris, one of the first, if not the first, large predator of the oceans of planet Earth. Anomalocaris clearly has a segmented body. It has large compound eyes, and then it has this pair of spiny, grasping appendages near its mouth, which it used to capture prey. So, despite its name, Anomalocaris, which means the abnormal shrimp, this species was one of the earliest and most formidable predators in Earth's oceans. Here's a pretty cool artist rendition of Anomalocaris, but for its time, Anomalocaris was gigantic, up to 3.3 feet long. It's going to propel itself through the water using those undulating flaps on the side of its body. Here's what's crazy. Cambrian trilobites have been found with round or W-shaped bite marks, which were initially identified as the same shape as these impressive mouth parts. The underside of the mouth is here. There's also evidence that Anomalocaris ate trilobites, which comes from coprolites. Coprolites is fossilized feces, but we do find fossilized feces in the Cambrian strata, which contains trilobite parts and feces that are so large that really Anomalocaris is the only thing big enough, the only organism that we've yet recovered large enough to have produced that feces. That said, I have to tell you that there was new research that was just recently released where researchers are now arguing that Anomalocaris' mouth may actually not have been strong enough to crush the hard shells of those trilobites. So it may not have been the culprit that put those bite marks in those trilobite shells. Further, there have been biomechanical studies that suggest that this species was really evolved to hunt softer prey. Regardless of what Anomalocaris was hunting, which it was a large predator hunting, the predators evolved and so did their prey. So hallucigenia was originally reconstructed upside down. So paleontologists, when they first found Hallucigenia, which is a great genus name, Hallucigenia, am I hallucinating? Anyways, when they first recovered this species, paleontologists thought those were legs. But a number of additional fossil recoveries clearly demonstrated that these were not legs at all. These were spikes. These were body armor. Spikes that evolved to keep predators, presumably like Anomalocaris, at bay. Having spikes, body armor on your back is definitely a strategy that convergently evolves throughout the history of life again and again. So think about Stegosaurus or modern day porcupines or hedgehogs. These are different lineages that are independently converging on an adaptation that clearly helps them from being bitten from above. Ovatiovermis was this weird filter feeding like worm creature called a lobopode. It had 9 pairs of legs that it probably used to reach high vantage points, where it would anchor itself using its posterior legs and then wave its spiny front legs to strain out plankton and detritus from the passing currents. Food was sucked into its mouth using an extrudable proboscis similar to the way sea cucumbers do it today. There have been 101 specimens of Herpetogaster recovered, and still, paleontologists really don't know what it is. Some say it may have been related to the echinoderms, the starfish, and the sea urchins. So the fossils suggest that it secured itself to the seafloor with an extendable anchor, and then it fed by snaring either small prey or plankton again in its tentacles, and then bringing those tentacles to its mouth the way that feather stars and some sea cucumbers do today. And one of my absolute favorites, the one and only, the wild, the weird Opabinia. So fossilized remains clearly demonstrate that Opabinia had 5, count them, 5 eyes and a flexible proboscis that it used probably for probing in the sand. So Opabinia brings us to a really important point. The Cambrian explosion represents a period of great experimentation in animal life, as many different adaptations arose, like 5 eyes and a flexible proboscis, that may have been ultimately selected against and died out, because we really no longer see any animals quite like this today. One lineage that did not die out are the chordates. The phylum to which we belong, the Chordata, are characterized by a notochord, a flexible rod-like structure that develops into vertebrae in most of the chordates today, as well as a dorsal hollow nerve cord, which, unlike other animals like the arthropods that have a ventral nerve cord, the chordates have a nerve cord that is hollow and positioned along the back dorsally. So this is Pikaia, a small, slender, fish-like creature that was only about 4 to 6 centimeters long, but that had a primitive notochord, that flexible rod, that likely initially evolved to provide structural support for Pikaia to propel itself through the water. And it also had evidence of that all-important dorsal nerve cord, another key chordate characteristic. Milo-Kunmingia is next going to take the chordates several evolutionary steps forward. Not only does Milo-Kunmingia have a notochord and that dorsal nerve cord, it also appears to now have a skull made of cartilage as well as gill pouches. This astounding fossil is thought to be the ancestor of the jawless fish, the Agnatha, and ultimately us.